The temperature had plummeted by 100 degrees Celsius and still kept dropping over time. Over 90% of the world's population die frozen, and after weeks of freezing, the world experiences a shutdown of all water and electricity overnight. I am the only one able to sit at home, playing games by the fireplace. Neighbors all step out of their houses to complain. In this extreme cold, people are sure to freeze to death. Furthermore, no one had the foresight to prepare instant noodles. So, even if they don't freeze, they'll starve, but I've hoarded an entire Walmart's worth of supplies in my house. The girl I've had a crush on for 18 years brazenly asks me for food. I unashamedly send her a picture of steak and wine. She instantly recognizes it as top-grade Wagyu and a $100,000 bottle of wine. Immediately, she says she also wants steak and wine. Upon hearing this, I laugh. If she wants to eat, she can go to the supermarket herself. Turns out, a supernova explosion affected the planet, causing a global ice age. And using my position as the warehouse manager of a supermarket, I have hoarded enough supplies to last 2 years. Who knew the girl would break into my house with a group of neighbors and steal all my food? In order to ration the food, they decide to start eating me. The girl even gleefully admits that she tricked me into opening the door. She wanted to take one of my arms. In extreme despair, I would rather die. This manhwa begins when the protagonist of this story, Zhang Yi, opened his eyes and has been reborn 3 months before the global freeze. Realizing this, he swore that in this life, he will never be a bootlicker again. Also, he wants to repay the pain of his previous life 1,000-fold. But the immediate priority is to hoard enough supplies before the end of the world and build a sturdy safe house. Just as he was considering where to start, a bright light flashes before his eyes. In the next second, he was in a strange space. Looking at this otherworldly place, a bold idea pops into his head. Zhang Yi thought to himself, if I could move an entire Walmart here, I would never have to worry about food and drink for 10 lifetimes. Just then, my stomach rumbles. Thinking about all the good things I won't be able to eat after the apocalypse, I head to the best restaurant in the city. A meal costs me 50,000. In the apocalypse, even a bowl of instant noodles can cost a life. It won't be easy to eat your fill then. This scene is witnessed by the girl I've been infatuated with for 18 years. A girlfriend standing beside her looks surprised. Fan Yuking, you're so lucky. The bootlicker that has been chasing you turns out to be a rich second generation in disguise. Fang Yuqing naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity and comes up to chat. Zhang Yi, what a coincidence. Hearing this, I laugh coldly inside. In my last life, I was tricked by her pretending to be pure and innocent. In the end, I became soup in her bowl. Although at this moment I really want to kill this bitch, it would also land me in jail. I have to wait until the end of the world. Immediately, I pull out my bank card and ask them if they want to go shopping at the supermarket, thinking to use these two as my free labor. After all, who will reject free labor? And as expected, they happily agree. Sure, we're neighbors. We can help you carry a bit. Who knew I would buy 2 full shopping carts and throw them to the 2? Free labor shouldn't go to waste. This leaves the girlfriend looking displeased. You're a big man. Aren't you going to do any of the work? Upon hearing this, Fang Yuqing immediately elbowed her, then hastily chuckles. I've done you a big favor today. You owe us a big meal. Hearing this, I laugh coldly inside. Of course, I'll have to treat you too well. When the extreme cold comes, not one of you will be able to run away. Just then, Auntie Lin from the neighborhood committee walks up with her grandson. Little Zhang, you can't eat all this by yourself. How about sharing some with Auntie Lin? After she says this, her 2-year-old grandson starts taking things from my shopping cart. I grab it back right away. Sorry, I don't even have enough for myself. Upon seeing this, the child immediately started making a fuss. Big villain, give it back to me or I will kill you, he shouted. In response, I coldly said, dare to say that again. I'll slap you to death. This yell made the child cry immediately. However, Auntie Lin wouldn't back down. What are you doing? A grown man haggling with a kid. I'll buy this box. I'll transfer you the money later. Stop acting like we're trying to take advantage of you. I immediately displayed my payment QR code, always saying later, either pay me now or go to the supermarket yourself. This move made Auntie Lin very angry. Once I got back home, Fang Yuqing winked at me. Don't forget to treat us. Okay? After I sent the 2 of them away, I stored all the purchased food in the alternate space. Next, I had to build an impenetrable steel fortress with heating devices and medical supplies. It would be great if I could get some firearms, but I'm not in a hurry. There are still 90 days until the Ice Age. During this time, I have to sell off my property as quickly as possible. With money, I can always get what I need. The next morning, I came to the alternate space to check the freshness of the food. Although I can't store live creatures, the food remains as fresh as when I bought it. I took out my phone and contacted the best local restaurant and booked 500 tables of meals. I wanted to host a banquet for 3 days and 3 nights, but the hotel manager said the cost for 500 tables of food and drink will not be less than $1 million and a deposit of $200,000 is needed in advance. Without any hesitation, I transferred $200,000 over. Then, I found my property certificate and went to the bank to mortgage it. After the apocalypse, money will become useless waste paper. But mortgaging the property and adding my own savings is only enough to build my safe house. I need more funds to purchase weapons and supplies. As I was thinking about how to get more money, a man in a suit walked up to me and said, "Bro, do you need money?" I was delighted. Money is coming when I need it. The man in the suit quickly brought me to another man. The man didn't beat around the bush and asked how much I wanted to borrow, but the interest rate would be a bit high. Upon hearing this, I rubbed my hands together. It doesn't matter if the interest is high. The main thing is to raise the money as soon as possible. So, I mortgaged the house that I had just mortgaged and my Mercedes-Benz as well. After the transaction, both parties felt that they had made a good deal. I mortgaged a house worth $5 million and a car worth $300,000 for $4 million. In the end, I have to pay them $7 million back, but I also think they are really nice people just giving away money for me to spend. Then, I came to the most famous War Dragon security company. In my previous life, a second-generation rich guy spent $2 billion to build a top-level safe house. As a result, that rich guy directly became the emperor in the apocalypse. At this time, a business manager came over and asked if I needed any help. I quickly walked up and expressed my idea, indicating that I wanted to build a safe house for the apocalypse. Hearing this, the business manager didn't say much and directly presented me with several plans for me to choose from. However, I was not satisfied with the plans above. Then I stated that the house should be reinforced with aviation materials. The balcony glass should use the highest strength bulletproof glass, and add an air filtration system and a 360-degree no-blind spot monitoring system. The front door should be made of the same material as the bank's anti-theft door, and I asked the manager to find a way to get some guns. After seeing my requirements, the business manager was surprised. With these renovations and some weapons, this would be a fortress. The final plan required $8 million. After I paid the deposit, I asked them to start work immediately and said that the balance would be paid within 3 months. Next, I need to get some weapons for self-defense. I called the owner of a hunting club by now and got a few sets of crossbows as weapons from him. Just then, the 500 tables of banquet I ordered also arrived in batches by truck. This attracted quite a few people from the neighborhood. This is the delivery truck from a 5-star hotel. These several trucks of food would cost at least $1 million or so. After a while, the food for 500 tables filled my entire house without wasting any words. I put them all into the otherworldly space. With all these delicious foods, plus the ingredients I had ordered before, I basically don't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of my life. The next day, the security company's workers came to start building the safe house. This scene attracted quite a few neighbors' attention, who ridiculed me, asking if I had taken the wrong medication. But I didn't care. When the end comes, you'll know who the real joke is. Then I found manager Joe from the company, and I bought a part of the warehouse's supplies at twice the market price. Next is to transport these things home little by little. Zhou Peng, another bootlicker, asked Fan Yuqing to go with him to a concert as I passed by, but she immediately rejected the invitation. Apologizing, she said she has a date that very night. What a coincidence. Hearing this, I laugh. This bitch really knows how to string a person along. Upon seeing me, Zhou Peng suddenly shouted, accusing me of not being a man. How can I let his goddess carry things to help me? Zhou Peng continued to shout, complaining some more. I immediately figured out that she was the one spreading words about me using people for free labor. She quickly chimed in, playing the victim, but I had no time for this bitch and his dog. As I was about to leave, Zhou Peng demanded that I pay her $500 as compensation and a fee to go see the doctor. I became annoyed hearing this. She was the one who took the initiative to carry my things. Zhang Yi gave Zhou Peng a cold stare, asking if he dares to talk to him like that ever again. Hearing this, the bootlicker immediately retreated, making excuses to make her feel better. Fan Yuqing watched me walk away, wondering how I have changed so much. My recent hoarding activities also attracted her attention. She then asked if something was going to happen recently, even saying that she had been thinking about me lately. As for this bitch's fake concern, I didn't want to respond at all. This really pissed Fang Yuqing off. Zhang Yi, this bootlicker, actually dares to ignore me, but she was still curious about my sudden hoarding. However, her best friend just scoffed. If something big is happening, the country will definitely notify us. Just try your best to catch Zhang Yi, this bootlicker. A week later, my weapons delivery came in, and also my emergency medicine was delivered after. I took the delivery sheet and signed for the purchase delivery. As I hand the sheet over, I received a notification on my phone that the building of my safe house was nearing its completion. Half a month later, my safe house was successfully built. In order to ensure the employer's safety, the manager also installed a surveillance system on each floor. I was very satisfied with this. They even made adjustments to better my safe house. The man reminded me of the rest of my payment within 3 months' time. Of course, I readily agreed. Inwardly, I smiled. By then, the world will be in chaos. Money will be nothing but a useless paper. Next is to wait for my last batch of supplies to arrive. Soon, several trucks of drinking water arrived in succession. At this time, Uncle Yu from the same neighborhood looked curious. "Little Zhang, what are you doing with all these barrels of water?" Thinking that Uncle Yu was one of the few good people in my past life, I whispered, "The weather this year is going to be very unusual. It's best to stock up on some supplies to prevent extreme cold as soon as possible." Upon hearing this, Uncle Yu was half skeptical, but seeing the serious look on my face, he believed it. In the following period, I tried my best to exchange all the money in my hands for various supplies 3 days before the advent of the extreme cold end days. I specifically went back to the warehouse and invited all my colleagues for a cup of milk tea. After they drank it, everyone fainted. In order to move the entire Walmart warehouse with peace of mind, I had already put sleeping pills and the milk tea in advance. After shutting down the surveillance equipment, I went to the warehouse and immediately put all the rows of goods into the otherworldly space. With the help of the otherworldly space, I quickly emptied the entire warehouse. Just then, a box in the corner caught my attention. When I opened it, it was the cold-resistant tech product that was stocked a few days ago. It was said to be able to withstand temperatures of -100 degrees with these supplies. Even if facing the coldest ice age, I have nothing to fear. To prevent exposure, I also directly gave myself a dose of sleeping water and then laid down on my colleague and fell asleep. 2.5 hours later, I was awakened by my colleague. "Boss, something crazy has happened. Our warehouse has been emptied." Hearing this, I pretended to be surprised and jumped up. "What the hell?" Then, looking at the empty warehouse, I pretended to be upset and said, "What happened? How are all the supplies in the warehouse gone?" At this time, the manager called, inquiring about the loss of the warehouse supplies. Knowing that the whole warehouse was emptied all at once, the manager immediately cursed. "How is this possible? Are you a mole and stealing for yourself?" I gave an awkward smile. "Manager, what do you take me for? Besides, I'm not that capable. I think we better report to the higher department as soon as possible, so as not to delay the investigation time." After hanging up the phone, I quickly comforted my colleagues. "Everyone, don't be afraid. We who are upright are not afraid of crooked shadows." Soon, all the colleagues on duty and I were called to the police station for questioning, but nothing could be found out after the questioning. Then the cop told us not to leave Tianhai City rashly, in order to cooperate with the follow-up investigation. Soon this incident made the news in Tianhai City. No one could believe that hundreds of square meters of supplies disappeared without a trace in less than 3 hours. Just then, it suddenly started snowing heavily in the sky. I knew this was a prelude to the extreme cold, so I hurried home. 3 days later, the shockwave from a supernova explosion swept across the globe. This brought about a devastating disaster to the entire planet. The temperature began to plummet overnight. Looking at the heavy snow outside the window, I remained calm. What was destined to come eventually came, but at this time the homeowner group became lively. After all, it was the first time to see such heavy snow in the south. I looked at all this with a calm face. Perhaps for many people this might be the first time they saw snow, and it could also be the last. In my past life, The heavy snow lasted a full 3 months, and the temperature would get lower and lower, causing many people who had not stocked up on food in advance to freeze to death in this winter. On the second day of the extreme cold weather, the heavy snow at the entrance of the residential area had piled up to half a person's height. Even if people indoors turned the air conditioning to the maximum, they still shivered from the cold. But I, who had prepared various heating equipment in advance, was sleeping soundly. But just then, I was suddenly awakened by a ring of the phone. It was a call from the bitch, Fang Yuqing. She asked cheerfully, "Zhang Yi, did you know about the temperature drop when you stocked up on supplies? You didn't even tell me, and now I'm freezing." Hearing this, I scoffed and directly hung up the phone. This pissed off Fang Yuqing on the other side. This bootlicker, he dares to hang up on me. Then she shamelessly texted me asking for food. After reading it, I laughed. She still wants to treat me like a bootlicker. I directly sent her a picture of steak with wine. Fang Yuqing recognized at a glance that this was a top-tier Wagyu beef and a bottle of wine worth 100,000. She immediately said that she also wanted to eat steak and drink wine. After hearing this, I laughed. If you want to eat, go buy it yourself at the supermarket. After seeing my message, Fang Yuqing was furious. But after thinking about it, she calmed down. After all, she has to hook me the fish, and I, full and bored, started watching TV. Just then, the tablet monitoring the building suddenly made a noise. I saw Auntie Lin on the screen solemnly saying, "Everyone, don't panic and scramble for supplies. This extreme weather will last at most 2 or 3 days. Our neighborhood committee will help everyone through this. Rushing for supplies will only lead to price increases. If anyone dares to hoard supplies, I will report to the authorities." But just then, a voice sounded behind them. "Auntie Lin, how can you determine that this heavy snow will not last long? You are blocking everyone from going out to buy things. Will you be responsible if something happens?" Hearing this, the surrounding homeowners also echoed, "If we don't hoard supplies now, will you be responsible if we run out of food later?" Auntie Lin quickly stated that the neighborhood committee would take responsibility for this matter. Then she pointed at me and cursed, "Zhang Yi, don't stir up trouble here. This is an illegal act." But I didn't bother to deal with her and turned around to go back to my super safe house. A week passed quickly, but the heavy snow outside showed no signs of stopping. I was having fun at home as usual. Suddenly, a message came in on my phone. I saw Auntie Lin in the group chat calling me out by name to go shovel snow. I didn't even think about it and directly refused her. With such heavy snow falling, we'd be shoveling slower than it's falling. Clearly, Auntie Lin was just trying to pick a fight. This got her gnashing her teeth in anger. Then, Auntie Lin commanded in the name of the neighborhood committee, "Zhang Yi, you must go out and shovel snow. Whoever dares to lead the opposition will certainly be dealt with by the organization after the snow disaster ends." Seeing this, I said coldly, "Such a show of authority." Then I quickly typed a bunch of text and sent it out. "How come I don't see you calling out the rich kids in the neighborhood? Just picking on us honest people. Auntie Lin, since you're so capable, why don't you go ask Su Hao in Chengqing how to shovel the snow? Chengqing Hao is the boss of a construction project. He has hundreds of people under him, and Su Hao is a well-connected rich kid. In my past life, these two guys broke into my house and took all my food." Hearing what I said, other people also started making a commotion in the homeowner group. "Zhang Yi is right. If you dare, go ask them." Seeing the messages, Auntie Lin was immediately cursing. Clearly, my words made it hard for her to step down, so she could only grit her teeth and call out the two in the group to shovel snow together. Seeing the message, Chen Zhenghao immediately started cursing. "Are you fucking crazy? I'll kill you if you bother me again." Su Hao also echoed, "What a big idiot. Taking the homeowner's money and acting high and mighty every day. Now you really think you're the boss? I don't even bother to deal with you poor ghosts." Seeing this message, Auntie Lin was so angry that she didn't dare to say a word, but directly pointed the finger at me. "Zhang Yi, you're really trying to make trouble for me, aren't you? You'll be satisfied if no one goes out to shovel snow, won't you?" I picked up my phone, turned on the voice message, and scoffed. "Did you come to me to seek a sense of existence after being scolded by someone else? Believe it or not, if you talk any more nonsense, I'll kill you." Seeing my serious tone, Auntie Lin immediately backed down. Just then, a loud bang came from my front door. I heard Chen Zhenghao outside yelling, "Zhang Yi, weren't you pretty cocky in the group chat just now? Believe it or not, I'll kill you." At these words, I picked up my crossbow and went to the door. It's not certain yet who's going to kill whom. I shot him directly through the shin with an arrow. Injured, Chen Zhenghao fell to the ground, wailing incessantly. He never imagined that I, a seemingly honest person, would be so ruthless when I took action. Little did he know that this was only the first step of my revenge. With temperatures now at -100 degrees, Chen Zhenghao's leg, which had been shot through, was surely not going to be saved. If not treated in time, he could only die slowly in this freezing weather. Chen Zhenghao, bearing the severe pain, staggered into the elevator. He could never have imagined, having only met me a few times, that I wanted to kill him directly. This realization made Chen Zhenghao shudder with fear. So, he immediately took out his phone and dialed the emergency number. However, the whole city was already covered in heavy snow, and the hospital's ambulance simply couldn't make it, left with no choice. Chen Zhenghao could only go home and treat his wound himself. Fortunately, the weather was freezing cold, and his foot was almost numb from the cold. Then, with a grim determination, Chen Zhenghao pulled the arrow out. Then, he took out his phone again and made a threat in the homeowner group. "Zhang Yi, wait for me. Watch me kill you." Facing his threat, I naturally wasn't afraid and responded confidently. "Keep talking and I'll disable your other leg." This scene stunned the onlookers in the group chat. After all, as the area tyrant, Chen Zhenghao, this was the first time someone dared to confront him directly. Soon, he picked up the phone and summoned his hundreds of followers. In no time, a swarm of followers, each holding their own weapon, rushed over in grandeur. After learning about what had happened, the leading bald guy came to my door with his followers. "You offended our bro Hao. Today will be your death anniversary." With that, he slashed directly at the door, but the next second, his machete was flung away. This scared the gangsters out of their wits. How many people had this kid offended? His home was fortified stronger than a turtle shell. Watching the scene from my security camera, I laughed with